So, what if the solution to a huge modern crisis wasn't some new idea, but an ancient survival strategy from the Roman Empire? Well, that's exactly what we're looking at today. We're going to dive into a blueprint for a religious organization facing collapse, and its plan is inspired by a model that's literally 2,000 years old. So let's see how they connect these dots. Okay, so right out of the gate, this document makes a really bold claim. The whole idea is that this little decentralized network of house churches didn't just survive the Roman Empire, it actually fundamentally overtook it. And that historical parallel right there, that's the foundation for everything that follows. So to really get a handle on the plan for today, the source says we first have to go way back in time. So let's start where it does, with the very first Christians trying to make it in the heart of the Roman Empire.
Now, what's really striking here is the timescale. I mean, the source makes it super clear that for 300 years, Christianity was illegal. Just think about that for a second. No public buildings, you can't worship openly. Their entire survival depended completely on this network of secret meetings in private homes, what the document calls house churches.
And that, right there, brings us to the central puzzle that this document is trying to solve. How does an illegal, persecuted group with basically no formal infrastructure not only survive for 3 whole centuries, but actually grow and thrive under that kind of intense pressure?
And here's the payoff, at least according to the source. After 300 years of operating underground, Christians made up a staggering 10% of the entire Roman population. I mean, this wasn't just survival. This was some serious exponential growth. So really, how did they do it? What was the secret to their success?
Well, the document argues that the answer really lies in 2 key things: the structure of these groups and the culture they built. So let's break that analysis down. This right here really captures the core contrast. On one side, you have the Roman Empire model. It's vertical, it's command-based, a really strict hierarchy. But the source argues that the house churches were the complete opposite. They went with a horizontal, equality-based, and super flexible structure. Not hierarchy, but equality.
Okay, so what did this horizontal structure actually do for people on the ground? Well, the document claims it created a community that gave people real, tangible support. It wasn't just about abstract beliefs. It was about getting care when you were sick, or getting food when you were hungry, and finding a real sense of equality and happiness. And according to this source, that was the real engine for its growth.
All right, so we've looked at the then. Now it's time to pivot to the now. Because remember, this whole deep dive into history was put together to solve a very specific and very, very urgent modern problem.
And here is that crisis. The Japan Family Federation, a religious group, is currently facing a legal challenge from the Japanese government that could actually lead to a dissolution order. If that happens, it would pretty much end its existence as a formal legal organization. The stakes just could not be higher.
So this is the group at the center of this whole document, and that potential court order, well, that's the existential threat that's forcing them to figure out a completely new way to operate, to come up with a blueprint for survival.
And the situation is incredibly urgent. The source estimates they've got about 1 year before a final court ruling comes down. And in that 1 year, it argues, an entirely new foundation has to be built. A whole new way of doing things needs to be put in place, and it has to happen quickly.
So all of this leads to the critical question. With its formal structure on the verge of disappearing and the clock ticking, what is the proposed path forward?
And the answer, as we've been building up to, is to look directly to the past. The blueprint calls for a pretty radical transformation. Basically, dissolve the current structure and rebuild the entire organization based on the model of those ancient Roman house churches.
And here are the proposed new rules. And it's a huge shift. Instead of top-down commands, the priority is the happiness of the members. Instead of a closed-off system, the goal is a financially transparent structure. And instead of a hierarchy, it's about actively caring for members in need and operating on the idea that everyone is a layperson. You can see it's a direct echo of that successful Roman model.
This quote here really says it all. It's an admission, right in the text, that a church run by command and instruction is just out of step with the times. The only way forward, according to this document, is to go horizontal. And so the document doesn't end with a neat conclusion. It actually ends with a question. Now, a lot of people might assume that if the court order comes through, the group will just disappear. But the source itself suggests a different outcome. It asks, by adopting this ancient, super resilient model, what could the Japan Family Federation look like in 100 or even 300 years?
It really leaves you thinking about survival, adaptation, and the lasting power of a decentralized idea.